Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and in today's video we're doing a deep dive into the Outriders Crafting and Upgrade system, talking about modding gear, upgrading its rarity, how to farm various mats, and more, just general tips and tricks when it comes to the upgrade system and how you go about constructing a build in the world of Outriders. If you guys have any questions at all, please let me know in the comments below, and hopefully we'll be able to help you make sense of this crazy world. Now, first and foremost, you don't unlock the crafting and upgrade system until right around level 8 or 9 in the game's story. It's there that you're going to meet Zahedi here, and you're going to go ahead and just start talking to him. Now, Zahedi is going to follow you throughout the campaign, and you can go ahead and use him to upgrade your gear, in which you're going to be brought into this menu right here. Now, to start here on the left-hand side, you'll see whatever gear that you have equipped, and then any weapons and armor that you have currently in your system. So selecting any piece of gear will bring up the different crafting options, and we'll go through all of these here in just a little bit. But I'm going to focus here first on armor. You can see here I have this blue piece of armor, and currently, if you guys aren't aware, when you see that real red square right next to the kind of the square with the white boxes, that means I already have a mod currently equipped to me that is currently using that. So it's going to tell you, by the way, this mod is currently already equipped. Now the red square, or the square next to it with the white boxes, that tells you that you actually have already collected that mod. When you break down gear, and we'll show that here later in the video, when you break down gear, it actually farms up the mods, and once you've unlocked a mod, then you're going to be good to have and use that mod whenever you want. But let's go ahead and start here with this helmet. Let's go ahead and talk about improving rarity. Here you can see that I can improve this item, and when I choose to do so, this is going to give it a upgrade to epic, upgrade to purple. Not all items are going to give you this ability. You'll have to play around with it to see what options you have available. In this case, by doing so, it's going to cost 123 of the titanium shards. These shards can be found on epic bosses as either materials, or you can acquire them from breaking down epic items. Now, if I go ahead and put those 123 into this helmet, you can see here that it now unlocks a new mod slot. Now, if I go ahead and hover over the different mods that they have available, both of, or at least all three of these choices I have already collected. So if you are choosing to manually upgrade a piece of gear, just note, especially when it's rarity, just note that you want to probably focus in on any kind of mod that you currently have collected, just so that when you do go to break it down, you will be continually feeding your tier 2 slot. So if I go and just pick on like Ice Trap, for example, now you can see here I've got 2 mods currently equipped to this gear. Now I'm going to jump into the mod selection here real quick, because here is where I can go ahead and add a mod to any particular slot. Now you can see here again with this currently in red, maybe I want to go and pick something that I don't have equipped. Let's say if I wanted to pick on Golem. The nice thing is that as you scroll over the mods that you have unlocked, you will see that some mods will tell you that you already have that currently going on the piece gear, any of your pieces of armor that you have equipped. Now you do have multiple tiers of mods. Tier 3 mods are going to be found on your legendary items, your legendary armor. Tier 2 is going to be on your epic armor, and so you can see here I can actually replace Spike Forest with the tier 2. There is no limit. You could actually have 2 tier 2s or 2 tier 3s. You're not going to be restricted from that whatsoever. But if I go ahead and say Perseverance Shield, I get the option to place it in slot 1 or slot 2. So if I go ahead and press A for slot 1, because that's what I want to go ahead and replace, I now have selected that mod, and the last step is I need to mod slot 1. It's going to tell me I need 179 leather, of which I have, in this case, 61,000, so it's pretty good to go. Once you've made that mod change, you see here that you'll now have this lock. This means Ice Trap is going to be forever implanted on this piece of gear, where I can actually replace this mod with other mods. Oh, I really don't want that. I can easily just kind of switch this in and out. And then as long as you click on mod slot, that's actually when the change happens. If you just select the mod and you see that it changes, note that nothing has actually changed in this case. So I can still kind of back out and go from there. So that's essentially gear upgrading and gear modding. Where this comes into your build, if I go ahead and select on my Cerebral Mental here, you can see here I have Extra Quake and Spike Forest. I have been working with Golem and with my Buckshot itself. Then from here over on my headgear, my Bloodshot and my Twice as Hot. Like, I have been working with a blood build, a bleeding build for my current Devastator. So That's typically how I'm structuring my mods themselves. Now I'm going to go and jump into Grim Morrow here. So this is a legendary weapon in which that I have a couple of options here. I have mod gear and I have raise attributes. So again, if I click on mod gear, I can sit here and decide if I want to replace crematorium with a, in this case, tier 3 mod, which I do because I have a tier 3 mod that I've unlocked for weapons, and I want to go ahead and place that in slot 2, so that way I now can go ahead and set that option. But now you can see here from a price of that, so in adding ultimate damage link to my my Grim Morrow here is almost 500 iron. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then now you can see here Singularity is going to be a part of this gun forever, but ultimate damage link can be replaced. I'm going to go ahead and keep that as my tier 3 mod for Grim Morrow as an incredible weapon. The other thing that you'll see, and we'll go ahead and talk about swap variant more in a little bit, because that allows you to change kind of the firing style. There's a couple different things. Clip size. The swap variant is essentially like some weapons have a couple different choices, so you can play around with that. But let's go ahead and talk about our raising of our attributes. Here you'll see crit damage, skill life leech, and close range damage. You get these shards, these materials, by breaking down your resources. So just to kind of back out right to the main menu here itself and going into the different gear, if I go ahead and hit like X for details, you'll see here if I break down this weapon, I'm going to farm up close range damage as a shard. If you ever want to see how many shards you have, they're in this nice little wonderful menu that you have kind of here, but you have to hover over it to be able to see all the different shards. If you're looking at playing this game and trying to dive in and decide whether you should upgrade something or you should, let's say, break something down, or you should sell something, I would recommend, as far as it goes, as long as you have all the different mods already collected, because that's a really powerful thing. Even tier 1 mods are incredibly powerful in this game. Just note that once you have that done, you can easily go and say, hey, I want to go and mark all of those, and with those marked, you can actually go to any of the in-game shops and go ahead and sell those items themselves. So I come over here to the nice little shop, I can choose to go ahead and tab over to sell, and anything that I've marked previously will automatically be here for me to sell. So I can go ahead and say sell those 22 items, and that's going to help me farm up scrap. Scrap is used to be able to come and buy various items from the vendor themselves. I don't want to sell any of my legendaries, but you can see here scrap can be quite expensive, and what you want to try and find in terms of your farming is those additional mods. I would prioritize mods from that collection game, because that's going to give you so much flexibility when it comes to your upgrades prior or even beyond just being able to go ahead and play your build itself. That's going to give you the most flexibility. But anyway, back to the upgrade menu and the crafting system itself. Then we have, outside of raise attributes, in case you're curious about what different options there are, you have armor piercing. This is going to lower the damage reduction caused by an enemy's armor value. You have critical damage. This is going to raise the damage done by successful critical hits. You have weapon leech. This is going to heal you for a percentage of damage dealt by a weapon. You also have skill leech. This is going to heal you for a percentage of damage dealt by a skill. You have healing received, increasing the amount of health restored through direct healing. Close range damage increases the weapon damage done at close range. You have long range damage. It's going to increase the weapon damage done at long range. Bonus firepower just increases your overall weapon damage. Anomaly power increases your skill damage. Max health is going to increase your health value. Cooldown reduction is going to decrease the cooldowns of your skills. And status power. This is going to increase the effectiveness of your statuses like burn, bleed, toxic, damage, ash, freeze, vulnerable, and weakness for the duration effect. So if you're, like in this case, if I'm focusing in on my specific build here, I'm working on a bleed build, putting bleed on as many targets as possible because that heals me. I'll cover that more as I get a couple different mods. Like, I'm not ready to sit here and say this is insane. It's getting insane, but we're not there yet. But essentially, anomaly power from a bleed perspective, that's something that would be really good because my skills are impacted by anomaly power. So increasing that allows me to continue to level this up. And you can see here is just filling it up with the different shards that I have until I hit cap. Not long range damage isn't something that's going to be useful, so this isn't going to be an example of a perfect piece of gear, but healing received definitely will go a long way in terms of how I'm maintaining that life and more. You can see here from the mods, my earthquake is actually going to inflict bleed on enemies, And I go ahead and keep twice as hot just because any damage to enemies with burn is actually more improved. And that I play with pyromancers, and pyromancers are fantastic. The other option and final option outside of swap variant is leveling up the item itself. So you can see here it's going to cost me various amounts of titanium. At this point, I would not recommend it. I would not recommend burning all your titanium into these things. I would recommend doing that for your legendaries when it comes to kind of playing the game. So be sure to kind of, I'm using my titanium earlier in this video to show you as an example, but I would recommend kind of sitting and holding on it. And this brings me to kind of my final point when it comes to the upgrading system. I think mods would be your priority. Stats are important, don't get me wrong, but mods are going to have that real impact on your play style from the moment to moment of this game. This all ties now into the world tier. If you're struggling, you got to think of this game like Diablo. It's all about farms per minute. When you go and you play this game and you pull up your main menu and you see all your different items, you see all your different pieces of gear, and it looks like right now from upgrading prior, just to make sure that I was testing this, that I definitely have better things that I can equip. That's actually important, but there's a cost to that. I would recommend making sure that you continually have a source of items until you start hitting a brick wall. That brick wall, when you start feeling the pressure of the game pushing back on you, you've got two options. Lower your world tier, there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, from a power leveling perspective, from an XP per drop, etc. perspective, you want to go ahead and just find that perfect world tier spot for you. I see a lot of people getting kind of caught and stuck in the game because they're putting their world tier at the maximum all the time, and they're finding these, especially certain quests, become very challenging. So just make sure you can lower your world tier, and you want to look at it at drops per minute as opposed to XP per minute, because that isn't going to change with your world tier. Then when you get a lot of items, it's all about collecting the various mods. So if you've already got the mods collected, in this case I don't, so I want to go ahead and take Vortex Chamber so that I can kind of collect it. And you can see here when I break it down, because it's rare, I'm feeding myself with titanium, and then I've just collected that mod itself. So you want to kind of play around with that. Earlier on, as you're leveling up things, you'll see plenty of things that you don't have. In this case, I don't have that one, and I don't have this one. So let me go ahead and collect both of those tier 2 mods, etc. Now you have weapon mods, you have armor mods. Those two things are definitely different. And then once you've got that, you can also use your scrap as you break these things down to go ahead and start farming up different things that the vendor will refresh every hour on the hour. Hopefully this has been a help. Hopefully you've got something useful out of this. I'm not discounting playing at higher world tiers. Mind you, it's fun, especially when you have friends. It definitely helps feed you with higher tier gear, but don't get stuck, because you do have the crafting system that you can start filling in those gaps. But I would personally recommend just making sure you're constantly feeding yourself with shards, materials, so that when it comes down to kind of perfecting that correct build, you have more flexibility and you don't have to compromise. But anyway, this has been Brian for Ginger Prime. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully if you did, hit that like button. If you didn't, hit that dislike button. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or maybe consider hitting subscribe if you feel like I've earned it on this channel. I love talking about action RPGs, especially those that are multiplayer in that regards. But that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you in my next guide. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.